What's good, everyone? Your boy Deke back again with another vid. This time we're going to be talking about Chase Claypool and his rookie season last year. So obviously we thought it was going to be a little bit better than how it finished out 10 games in. We thought he was on a historic pace. This is going to be one of the greatest rookie receiver seasons of all time. Definitely didn't finish out that way. If you were trying to compare Claypool with other rookie receivers around the NFL, he doesn't really stand up. But then that got me thinking more and more, because I do think his rookie season was memorable. How would his season stand up against some of the best Steeler rookie receiver seasons of all time? There's only one that came to mind. I was like, Louis Lips, his was pretty good. I know he won Offensive Rookie of the Year, but his stats are very comparable to Claypool. So I got 6 names here, including Claypool. And the one at the end is probably going to be a little bit surprising, and he is the probable winner. First name on the list, we have MARTAVIS BRYANT. Don't let how his Steeler career played out blind you from the fact his 2014 rookie season was really impressive. 4th round pick out of Clemson. We weren't sure how much playing time MARTAVIS was going to get coming into the season, especially since we had AB. Marcus Wheaton was going to step in at wide receiver 2. We had some depth. We brought in Lance Moore, but MARTAVIS BRYANT, there was no doubt about it. If he would have stayed in school, he might have been a 1st or 2nd round pick in the following year's draft. When you look at MARTAVIS' stats versus the other 5 names on this list, they aren't completely gaudy, but they do need some context. Remember, he sat the first 6 games of the season, no playing time at all. And then when he did come in against the Houston Texans, he was pretty much lights out. His 2014 season totaled for 26 receptions, 549 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That was a 21.1 yards per reception. Consider that was all in 10 games. If you sample that over a 16-game season, that all of a sudden becomes 13 touchdowns and over 870 yards. Also had 61 yards and a touchdown in the one playoff game that we had in the 2014 season against the Ravens. Now you might be saying, all right, whatever, even though if you sample those out over 16 games, what's the big deal? The total numbers really don't add up. The 500 yards, the nice yards per reception, the 8 touchdowns, that doesn't really equate to the Steelers' best rookie receiver season of all time. But what MARTAVIS does have in his favor is the immediate impact he had as soon as he stepped on the field. Steelers were in question of making the playoffs. They were 3-3 coming off an atrocious Browns loss in the middle of the season. Offense looked really anemic. AB, Ben, and Bell, they were looking all right, but something was really missing in the offense. We plug in MARTAVIS randomly after missing the first 6 games of the season. In the Houston, Texas game, what does he do? He has a touchdown. We win the game. The offense looks good. And then all of a sudden, Ben has back-to-back 6-touchdown games. We end up making the playoffs. The 8 touchdowns in 10 games, the 21 yards per reception, the 549 yards, that'll hold up against anyone. But when you consider the impact MARTAVIS had as soon as he stepped onto the field and how the offense basically flipped a switch, maybe that'll have you reconsidering if you consider MARTAVIS' rookie season amongst the elite. Next, we have another name that may surprise you whenever we're talking about best rookie receiver seasons of all time, and that's JUJU Smith-Schuster. His 2017 season, he had 917 receiving yards, which is actually most of all time whenever you look at Steelers rookie receivers. 7 receiving touchdowns, 8 total touchdowns when you include his punt return at the end of the season, Week 17 against the Browns. Now, there are a few things that are in JUJU Smith-Schuster's favor when it comes to this discussion. Those 917 yards, the most all-time for any Steelers rookie receiver, came in 14 games. So if you did the whole 16-game sample, he would have most likely been over 1,000 yards, and the numbers would have looked that much more gaudy. But then you also consider one of those games that he missed was whenever he had the payback hit against Vontaze Burfict in the Cincinnati game. That hit resonated with NFL fans, especially Steeler fans, after the dirty hits that Vontaze Burfict delivered throughout his career in the NFL, specifically to Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. I just thought it would be another caveat to add whenever we're talking about JUJU Smith-Schuster's rookie resume. That had some impact. And let's not forget the big moments in big games. He was a part of a 13-3 team that probably should have been 14-2. Had a big game against the Patriots late in the season that would have locked the Steelers up for the 1 seed. The clutch catch at the end that put us in position for the Jesse James touchdown that the refs reversed. We still know was a touchdown. but we do have to get over it. It's been like, what, 3 or 4 years? Either way, Juju had a really good game against the Patriots. Also had the 97-yard reception against the Detroit Lions, totaled over 193 yards in that game. And as I mentioned earlier, was the MVP in the Week 17 game against the Cleveland Browns, had the return touchdown over 100 yards. When you consider the stats, Juju has that. When you consider the impact, big moments, and big plays, Juju has that as well. So it's not a stretch to consider Juju possibly the best rookie receiver the Steelers have ever had. Next name on the list, we have Santonio Holmes, Steelers first-round pick in 2006. Actually traded up in the first round to select Santonio Holmes, which was definitely a need at that point because even though we were coming off a Super Bowl, we needed receiver help. Cedric Wilson was our receiver number 2 that season. Then we also lost Randall L in free agency. So Santonio Holmes was a really good pick. All of us were excited. Definitely paid off because of Super Bowl 43. We know how Santonio's career played out. But for his rookie season, a little bit underrated, a little bit forgotten about, but maybe compared to the rest of the Steelers rookie receivers, it does make sense because he only had a little over 800 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. He did have a punt return touchdown, though. What he does have in his favor is his versatility and that he was in the special teams game. His greatest highlight in his rookie season, fortunately and unfortunately, came in the last week of the regular season against the Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately, because we weren't playing for a playoff spot. Fortunately, it did knock the Cincinnati Bengals out of the playoffs in overtime. Slant across the middle, takes it to the house, and this was his only game in his rookie season where he eclipsed over 100 yards. So Santonio Holmes, rookie season, a little bit forgotten, maybe a little bit underrated, but may not stack up the best against some of these other names on the list. Probably the most obvious player whenever you're thinking about Steelers and rookie receiver seasons is Louis Lips because he did actually win Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1984. But how well do these numbers stack up against the other receivers in this video? And in my opinion, they stack up really well. 860 receiving yards, 11 total touchdowns. He had a receiving touchdown and a punt return touchdown. Whenever you're talking all-purpose yards, had a little bit more than Santonio Holmes with 1,587. Impact plays across the field. First game of the season, had over 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had over 200 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Saints. Had a good first impression in the playoffs with over 80 yards and a touchdown in his first game. And all those numbers I talked about in the regular season, just like Juju, only came in 14 games. So when you extrapolate that over 16 games, the numbers look even better. Those 11 touchdowns become 12 or 13 touchdowns. Those 860 yards become either high 900s, potentially 1,000 yards. He even led the league in punt return yards. His rookie season holds up for sure, and there's a good case that 1984 season stands the test of time and is still the best to this day. Next, we have Chase Claypool, the most recent rookie receiver on this list, and the one season that's probably most fresh in our minds. 873 yards, 62 receptions, and 11 total touchdowns. The sad part about this season, like I mentioned before, he had 10 touchdowns in 10 games. This was looking like it was going to be one for the history books whenever you're talking about the NFL and all-time rookie receiver seasons. His production definitely fell off as the season went, but still the numbers hold up whenever you're talking about the other Steeler receivers in this video. What is in his favor is the 4-touchdown game against the Philadelphia Eagles that no one else has on their resume, and he also added 2 touchdowns in the playoff game against the Cleveland Browns. Now, you may call those garbage time, but none of these other receivers had 2 touchdowns in a playoff game. So when it comes to Claypool, the numbers hold up. He had the big 4-touchdown game. Maybe we're missing a defining moment or two, and perhaps the versatility that Juju and Louis Lips brought to the table. Either way, his name should definitely be in this conversation. We may have the winner. We may have the winner. The name, the player that no one has any clue about. Jimmy Orr, Pittsburgh Steelers. This was 1958. So in this rookie season, he had 910 yards, 7 touchdowns on 33 receptions. Think of that again. 33 receptions, 910 yards. That is a whopping 27.6 yards per reception. This was all done in 12 games. 11 games, if you look on certain sites. It's kind of a mystery because it says their record was 6-4-1. That totals up to 11 games. But then if you look at Pro Football Reference on the main stat page, it says 12 games. So in between 11 and 12 games, for the sake of this argument, let's say it's 12 games. You average those stats over a 16-game season. It's 1,213 yards and 9 touchdowns. Now you add the run that he had in the last 4 games of the season. Let me read you these numbers. 116 yards, 1 touchdown. 163 yards, a touchdown. 123 yards of touchdowns, 205 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Add to the fact that he also did win AP Offensive Rookie of the Year as well, just like Louis Lips. These numbers for 12 games are pretty ridiculous, potentially 11 games. Whenever you're talking about the pure receiving stats, I think Jimmy Orr has the upper hand, but then Louis Lips has the versatility, and also JUJU Smith-Schuster in the punt return game. MARTAVIS Bryant, I think, may have had the biggest impact in the small sample size that he did play and how he helped change the Steelers season around. Then you have Chase Claypool, the 4-touchdown game that I just mentioned. Santonio Holmes, was his season a little bit underrated? How do you feel about that? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to leave this open-ended. I'm more interested to hear what you guys got to say. Made the case for each one of these receivers, but you guys may have better context than me. I never got to see Louis Lips play. I never got to see Jimmy Orr play. I got to see Claypool, MARTAVIS Bryant, JUJU, and Santonio Holmes. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who was the best Steelers rookie receiver of all time? Hope you guys enjoyed the vid. Stay chilling. Peace.